Having to work out and eat perfectly every single day just to maintain your lasting weight loss results is not a winning strategy. As much as I believe you can outwork not having the best solution, trust me when I say this, when it comes to lasting weight loss, you need a plan of attack, minimize the effort, and maximize your results. So if you don't want to become that person that's always working out and never seeing change, it's time to pay attention. So yes, we're gonna talk about how to maximize your results, how to get the most out of the time that you spend. And don't worry, we will still get into exercising, cardio, HIIT training, resistance training, all of that. I want to cover all that with you, but I gotta start with this fundamental piece. You don't need analysis paralysis. You don't need the perfect plan in life. We're not just talking about health, we're talking about in general. Move, make motion, make progress, outwork the lack of a perfect plan. And I do believe that to be true in so many cases, but we can only keep up with that sort of mentality for so long, especially when we're talking about exercise, a very time-consuming and challenging thing for most of us to adhere to. I want to make it easier. I want to help you guys optimize the time that you spend both exercising and not exercising. Let me start by explaining the concept that exercise is not needed for lasting weight loss. My name is Dr. Jones. I own clinics. We service across the nation, all 50 states. For the past damn near 18 years, I've been helping people achieve lasting weight loss. Both myself, I had lost over 100 pounds about 20 years ago. I struggled for 8-9 years to keep it off. And so I had my own journey of after losing weight, of yo-yoing back and forth every single year. And I finally achieved stability in my weight. In the last 10 years, clinically, I've been able to help patients and utilize the strategies that I had done myself, but then both researched to be effective for patients. And now we fast forward, and what we're doing with lasting weight loss is just nothing short of a miracle. And so the topic about exercise, it comes up a lot, and we have to understand what is the purpose. Directly speaking, burning calories with exercise is not required for lasting weight loss. In fact, the data is pretty clear that your body works against you, and your body has this set point, and I've talked about it in other videos. So excessive exercise will be handled by your body no differently than excessive caloric restriction. There's this tendency for your body to return back to baseline and inevitably slowing down the metabolism equal to the amount of calorie expenditure, which is actually a combination of what you're burning at rest and what you're doing through exercise, to bring a balance out, which is not a good place to be if you're exercising a lot and now you're no longer losing weight, because then you're gonna gain that weight back when you start eating more. I'm not losing weight anymore. Why would I keep up all this effort of exercising and dieting? And that's why they end up gaining the majority of their weight back, because this is a really powerful set point that the body adheres to. I'm not saying exercise isn't beneficial. It absolutely is. We have to understand the different aspects. And so outside of the context of caloric restriction, exercise, and we're still talking as a whole, everything is still extremely beneficial for lasting weight loss, because it's extremely beneficial for long-term health. Optimizing your health is dependent upon exercise, both the muscle side of things, muscular strength and endurance, as well as the cardiovascular side of things, heart health, blood flow. You need it all. And the more that we age, the more that we need it. Starting point with wherever you're at now, if you're not already doing it, if you haven't been doing it, you need to start now. Whether you're 20 or 50, I can make a damn good argument regardless, because the younger person, while they might not see the threat of the future, while you watching this might be younger yourself, I'm telling you right now, it's the best investment you can make. Preventing these issues that you see all your older friends struggling with health-wise, but also optimizing, staying on your edge, having the highest IQ possible, having the highest amount of focus to be able to crush it at work and whatever endeavors you might run into that require you to be the best version of yourself. But we are talking about lasting weight loss, and we are talking about optimizing and maximizing. So I'm gonna table the conversation about what we need to do to maximize health specifically, although, man, you can't really have lasting weight loss not have significant crossover to optimizing health, but I do want to table that for now. So hands down, time-wise, energy-wise, focus-wise, working on beating insulin resistance, which, yes, exercise will absolutely contribute to helping you battle insulin resistance, but your diet, what you're eating, when you're not eating are massive variables. And I've made tons of other videos, guys. So this is your first video that you're watching of me. Take some time, go to the YouTube page, scroll through the thumbnails and find one that tickles your fancy. Because I'm telling you right now, the enemy, the focus that you need to put your attention on is fixing insulin resistance. So briefly, what is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance is a condition in which your body is no longer responding to insulin as well. And so therefore, your body needs to increase the amount of insulin to get the job done. Well, what is the job of insulin? The job of insulin is to get the sugar out of your blood, which is technically not in the body. There's intra versus inter, into the body, intra, inside the cells. And that's done via the powerful effects of insulin. It's a storage hormone. It's not meant to be elevated all the time. In fact, it's meant to be at a low level the majority of the time, and only do we experience a transient rise, a short-term rise in reaction to the food that we eat. This is the way it was intended to be, but now we have this condition, insulin resistance, and as a byproduct, as an effect, in order to get the job done, your body has to make more insulin. So now you have this, what we call in the medical community, hyperinsulinemia, which is just chronically elevated insulin levels. Humans were not meant to have this going on. This is a powerful signal that says, grow, 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 store, 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 store. Think about the excitement and use case and everybody raving about GLP-1 medications, because look what they do. Look what they're doing right now. You know, that we've never had something this powerful for both weight loss and overall metabolic health and so many other diseases that these medications can actually help. Well, I think we can say that this really confirms the idea and the concept, or theory, if you still want to call it a theory, that insulin resistance and metabolic health is the basis of the development and progression towards most diseases. I've always felt this way. Many doctors of many multiple disciplines also agree with this concept. And I think time and more research will only confirm what we're seeing. But it's amazing. It's amazing. These medications make a significant improvement in insulin resistance. But that goes back to my point. How do we maximize our results? Like, I'm still going to talk about exercise. I'm still going to go over the benefits of it. It's still amazing. Like, I need you guys to understand that. But the point that I'm trying to make is we have a finite, right? A certain allotment, if you will, of attention units, of ability to focus. Like, we can't focus on too many things at once, both in the moment, like right in front of you right now. I can only look at so many things right now, and on a zoomed out scale, time-wise, I can only be doing so many different things and implementing so many different things with relative success and accuracy at a time. And so, I mean, God, you got your job, your kids, your spouse, your significant others, and you know, it's for many people, it's just a struggle to get through the day. So yes, I want you guys exercising. Yes, I will tell you how to maximize your exercise. But it would be silly for me to give you all this excitement if I didn't really just put it into perspective and said, even if it meant no exercise, if all you had was attention that can be allocated towards this first, which is the diet side of things, which is the fasting, which is the ketogenic diet, eating less processed foods, because fasting is essentially not eating. And when you're eating, I would love for you to go lower carbohydrate intake and replacing those processed and ultra processed foods with less processed. Think fruits, vegetables, legumes, meats, nuts. This is the bulk of your diet. I don't ask you to go 100% clean, but people in our programs, I know very familiar and all too well that I like to ask for about a 90% adherence to that. So get that first, whatever it takes. Reorganizing your pantry, throwing away all the junk food at your house, and which, you know, I can't blanketly recommend that for everybody because, well, number one, that's damn annoying that you have to get rid of everything. And so when you do want to treat yourself, that you literally have to leave the house in order to get that. But you know yourself better than I can't tell you what it's going to take. Discipline is the ability to execute and get what needs to be done. And so you need to get honest and straight with yourself and have a discussion. All right, do I need to clear out my pantry? Do I not have the ability to have my desserts that I intend to eat on Saturday after an effective weight training session Or is this just not gonna happen? If you know that you have the junks, that you have the treat, that your cheat meals are there conveniently ready to go and you can't help yourself, then this isn't a conversation or an attempt to make you feel bad. In fact, I commend you, because if you really think about it, it takes guts and it takes courage to recognize weakness and to not sulk and feel guilty and feel negative about it. Who's got time for that? No, you need to focus on the what can be done and the solution and whatever that is regarding food. So do what you got to do, but and where am I going with all that? Attention units, focus, right? If you have to do all that and you have to have time to get honest and straight with yourself, then maybe, exercising right now at the same time isn't ideal. You got to make the decision for yourself. But once you have order to what was disordered and chaotic, adding exercise as quickly as you possibly can. Some people can do it all, again, do everything at once at the same time. I'm all for that. I just really wanted to parse that out for you and give you a priority. Okay, so now let's talk about exercise. The 3 different forms of exercise. We have steady state cardiovascular, you have high intensity interval training, and you have resistance training. Let's focus on my number 1 favorite form of exercise, and that would be resistance training. And out of these 3 categories, priority, 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 I always like to give you guys a priority. If that's all you did out of the next 3, if you stopped watching this video after resistance training because you weren't doing any forms of exercise, I would tell you the same thing that I told you earlier. Do the best thing you can right now in this current stage of time and execute and implement and improve the next iteration. So resistance training is, for 99% of people when they start my program, or what I would recommend to the general public, the best form of exercise that you can do as you start your weight loss journey. We have to understand why that is. Muscle mass is the organ of longevity. And quoting Dr. Tina Moore, it's the currency of our metabolism. The more muscle mass you have, the more healthy you will be. The more muscle mass you have, the longer you will live. And not to mention, the longer you will live, the happier you will be, because generally happiness and length of lifespan is going to be longer. So we got to understand that together. Why am I bringing this up? You're like, I'm Dr. Jones, I'm just trying to lose weight. Like, why are we talking about building muscle mass? Because you need to be thinking, how can I protect my muscle mass? When you start a weight loss journey, you got multiple tissues that you can lose, but we can categorize this to fat mass and non-fat mass, which is lean body mass. And like I said, there's various tissues in there, but for the most part, the majority of that non-fat tissue is muscle mass. And the name of the game, whether you realize this or not, is protecting and safeguarding that muscle mass. That's what you need to do. That's what your job is. Because when you lose weight, with the exception of bodybuilders taking crazy anabolic agents, very, very potent muscle building illegal agents, the rest of the public, when you lose weight, you are going to lose muscle mass. So the name of the game is protecting muscle mass as much as you possibly can. You got to safeguard this. And this is going to save you so much time in the future, number 1. Number 2, no one's ever complained when they lost 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, looking in the mirror and having some tone, having some definition. The loose skin is another issue too as well. Having more muscle mass isn't going to completely prevent loose skin. That's a whole nother problem, which I'll probably end up making another video about. But having more muscle mass there can help support the structure and reduce the appearance of loose skin, absolutely. But metabolically speaking, muscle mass is very metabolically active tissue, meaning you burn more calories at rest the more muscle mass you have. Meaning you get to eat more food in the future. Your body requires a larger intake of calories to simply maintain its weight. Pretty awesome perk. And there's another perk too as well. It also means that hormonally speaking, you have a scenario that's more favorable towards staying in shape, towards keeping your body fat levels down, because muscle mass, it's like a sponge for glucose. Your body only has 2 areas in which it can store glucose, and our body converts it into glycogen, and glycogen is the storage form of glucose. It's complex carbohydrate. Your body has a limited amount in the liver, and then it has a limited amount in the muscle, but it's kind of, I say it separately because you can build muscle mass. Hopefully you're not building your liver bigger, because that would be hepatomegaly, and that's not a good place. You don't want to build your liver bigger, but you do want to build your muscles bigger, as big as you possibly can, as big as you desire, and certainly at least protecting what you have, because you may not realize that being an overweight individual, you have more muscle mass on your body because you're carrying a bigger frame, you're carrying more weight. So you literally have more muscle mass on your body. So if you can protect that in conjunction of losing body fat, protect as much as you possibly can, that's going to produce the most favorable result. And look, GLP-1 medications, we might as well cover this topic, do not cause muscle mass loss. They don't. We need to throw that out the door, because this is being spread along with a lot of other silly nonsense that very uneducated people in the space of weight loss services that don't coach people or embrace people with GLP-1s. And so usually they're against it, and they're saying silly nonsense like GLP-1 medications burn muscle mass. When you look at the hormones and you look at what GLP-1 medications do, improving insulin resistance, reducing inflammation, they actually, hormetically speaking, produce a more favorable environment for muscular growth. But hormones will not override calories in terms of your weight change on the short term, going up or going down. Caloric surplus means weight gain, caloric deficit means weight loss. So you understand how important muscle mass is. Well, how do you maximize it, right? What is the best approach? Weightlifting wise, we call this hypertrophy training. Hypertrophy is the medical term for muscle growth, where the size of your muscle fibers actually increase. The thing about hypertrophy is it's not necessarily something that requires massive weight gain on the scale. Yes, if you want maximal muscular growth, then you need to be looking at the scale in terms of, all right, how many lbs am I, how many pounds am I gaining per month, right? If you really want to maximize growth, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to prevent muscle mass loss, which is inevitable with weight loss. And the best signal that you can give is the same signal that you would give your body if you were trying to grow muscles. That's what's important. And that's a big takeaway from today's video, is that I want you training the same way that you would train if you were trying to grow your muscles. Think bodybuilding. What do bodybuilders do? And we're gonna get into all that. But if you got visuals, you can imagine, you can see some of these videos right here. Most of my lifting styles right here, as you can see, are in this hypertrophy style range, taking it to the end range, hitting muscular failure, achieving that through 8 to 12 repetitions, somewhere between 15 to 18 total sets. And we're gonna get into all these definitions so that we understand the concept here. Again, the difference is how we are eating on a weekly basis. In my program or any weight loss program, you're gonna be in a caloric deficit. You have to in order to lose weight. So we're not trying to get big and bulky and get bigger. We're trying to get smaller, I promise. But at the same time, we wanna stimulate those muscles no differently than we would if we were actually trying to get bigger. Again, really wanna clarify that point. You'll see a lot of weight loss, weight training workouts, more circuit, right? Even CrossFit. And the problem with CrossFit's got its own issues. I love it when it's done properly and effectively, but it's very aerobic piece of it too as well. Circuit training is definitely more aerobic in nature. And the benefit of doing weightlifting like that, which is very short rests, sets after sets after sets with very short rest periods, lighter weight, the idea, the concept there is you're trying to get the best of both worlds. And I would say I agree with that statement. And there's benefit to that. But you get past that point as you become more and more of a veteran weight trainer, where you need to up the ante. You need to be more progressive. And so weight training that is involving the aerobic benefit does become less productive for you as you're making progress as you desire to make progress with weight training. And anybody that does my program, we are massive fans of the FLOA. This is what we do, is we implement the FLOA protocol, which involves a ton of fasting. So I don't need you to burn more calories. We're good. We're good. You've already burned enough calories from the caloric deficit that's produced from the long fasting. I want you to protect as much muscle mass as you possibly can. And so that's why we focus on a hypertrophy style training. So let's break down the mechanics of what this looks like so we can put it all together for you. So a set is simply the number of repetitions that you do. So you hit near muscular failure and then you stop. That's a set of a single exercise. The repetition or the rep is one full round of whatever movement you're doing. So if we're doing a chest press, forward and back is a single repetition. And if I did that 12 times and stopped, that would be a set. And so when we look at the structure of these routines, especially if you're a beginner, and I know a lot of you guys are, you don't need to overcomplicate this. 2 to 4 times a week, full body workouts is where the focus should be. And you'll hear me saying this a lot, lift heavy weights, lift heavy weights. But then at the same time, you probably are intelligent enough to realize, well, isn't that increase the likelihood of getting injured? It absolutely does. So how do we make sense of lifting heavy? And why is Dr. Jones always saying the lift heavy? It's an expression that has some truth to it, but there's some nuance. The weight, the load that you choose, right? If you're doing a machine and you drop the little bar down and you increase the weight, right? You're increasing the load. Increasing the load requires more effort from your muscles, more power. You will reach that failure point much sooner, okay? So the general concept here for hypertrophy style of training is lifting, choosing a weight or a load that would bring your muscles to failure. Now, I'll do much deeper videos on this later. You don't need to go completely to failure, but if you're a beginner, somewhere between 2 to 5 reps from failure. If you're more veteran, more advanced, maybe that 1 to 2 to 3 reps from failure. So close, but you don't have to go to complete failure, but you got to be close. And you want to do that in most of your sets. And we call that intensity. That is the intensity at which you're lifting. And you know the general concept is as your body adapts, you're getting stronger. So week by week, if you're not increasing the load, if you're not increasing the weight, it becomes easier and you're getting less and less, and eventually you'll get no response at all. You could literally do the same workout over and over and over and produce the power, move the load, and you won't have any breakdown. You won't have any stress response. At that point, you're just burning some calories and you might as well just do cardio at that point. So we have to be progressive. We have to be progressive in order to keep the muscles on its toes, to keep the trauma, the positive stress response, and the growth, the positive stimulus that we're looking for. So you gotta have that right intensity, taking it to near muscular failure the majority of your sets. Now, always, as you're lifting, avoid injuries. I'll say this over and over. If you have an injury, if you have something, work around it or get some help from a trained personal trainer that has experience with injuries, a physical therapist or a chiropractor, so they can help teach you how to navigate around injuries and not exacerbate them. Always avoid joint pain when you are pushing weight. You want to feel the pain in the muscle. If you're pushing forward, you want to feel the burn and you want to push yourself mentally through that as much as you can, but you want to avoid. I would never continue to push on a chest press, for example, if I was feeling pain in my shoulders. There are other variables that you can also manipulate that do not require weight. And so, yes, you'll hear me, and many people will continue to say, lift heavy weight, but if you're smart, there are things you can do to increase the load without having to increase the weight, which will reduce, comparatively speaking, your chances of getting injured. So what are those variables? Tempo. Tempo is the speed at which you are lifting. You have a concentric when the muscles contract, and you have an eccentric, which is the muscle lengthening. The eccentric, so on a lat pull down, it would be the opposite because you're pulling down is concentric, and then going up would be the eccentric. You get more hypertrophy response when you slow down your tempo, your speed in the eccentric portion. And if you ever do that, you notice it's much harder, it's burning much more, but that's good. Guess what? If you can do because we're gonna talk about rep range here in a second, the ideal rep range is 8 to 12. So you wanna choose the proper loads and get you close to muscular failure between 8 to 12 reps. So let's say, for example, you can perform 10 normal speed chest press. If you change the tempo and all of a sudden slow it down on the eccentric portion, the way back down, I promise you, if 10 was your failure before at normal speed, you won't be able to do 10 with that slower eccentric. So bring the weight down. Less weight means less pressure on the joints, which is good, especially if you have considerations with the joint. So tempo, speed through which you're moving the weight, the load, is a variable that you can and should manipulate. After that, very related would be range of motion. So the range of motion refers to the range of the motion that's available for you to move the load through. And contrary to popular belief, new data actually shows that you want to lift through the entire range of motion. Not only for maximal hypertrophy, but my good friend Ben Patrick, the creator of the knees over toes protocol, I've learned a very valuable lesson from him and his trainings: strength through length. My gosh, what an anti-aging principle. I've been so focused on building my muscles and building my strength that I'll admit throughout my 20s and early 30s, I didn't do much mobility. I didn't do much flexibility, right? Well, he'll say the same problem for people, you got your yogis and your yoga lovers and super flexible, but very little strength. Ideally, as you are increasing your strength, you want to increase your strength through an entire range of motion. Very, very important, an entire range of motion. Again, you won't be able to do as much weight. And as long as your joints are fine, this is the ideal way to go. And again, I'll bring that point up again. This is how you prevent injury. You strengthen your body through the entire range of motion, and now you're bulletproofing, for example, an injury that happens unexpectedly. Usually what happens is people fall or have a sports injury and end up with a lot of force and speed from the particular position they were coming from, falling into a position that they don't train. This is where the whole knees over toes name came from, because squatting over your knees was thought to be bad, yet how the hell would you prevent when unintentionally you find yourself with your knees massively over your toes? How do you not get injured in that position? How do you get stronger in that position? You do it pain-free in a controlled manner. Just had to bring that up. And it's just nice that it coexists with the best way to do hypertrophy training. So we have tempo, we have range of motion, and we understand that each set has a certain amount of repetitions. So putting this all together, you want to utilize full range of motion, a nice controlled tempo with the eccentric portion being slower than the concentric, avoiding joint pain, taking your sets from 2 to 5 reps of failure, right? And look, you can end a set, a few of your sets to complete muscular failure if you want to do that. You just don't need to do that on every single repetition, because that can get more intense. That's more of an advanced, more veteran. You've been lifting for 5 to 8 years, then you do need to take more of your sets closer to failure. Muscle soreness, delayed onset muscle soreness is expected. And I actually think of it as a nice way to know that you kicked ass. But truth be told, you actually don't need to feel muscle soreness all the time. I would think something is wrong, like you're not working out hard enough if you got no muscle soreness from the very get-go, from the beginning. But as you get more advanced, you become more of a veteran. If you can see that you're getting gains from your strength, or you visibly see it, don't stress about the soreness. So let's talk about high intensity interval training. So high intensity interval training, or HIIT training, you probably have heard of, and it's some sort of alteration between steady state exercise and faster, more intense exercise. And there's so many different versions of high intensity interval training. You could technically jog and then walk, jog and then walk. You could run and then jog, run and then jog, run and then walk, run and then walk. So many different things. As you can imagine, the different styles of HIIT training, on the low end, the least intense type of HIIT training would be something that you do on the higher end for as much time as you do on the lower end. Meaning if you do a minute on and a minute down and a minute on and a minute down, the fact that you're spending equal amount of time on the harder part compared to the lower part, there isn't that dramatic of a shift in the intensity. As you start getting into HIIT training protocols that really push the higher end really hard intensity-wise, it requires, by definition, a much longer rest period. And if you haven't heard of this book called The 1 Minute Workout, definitely check it out. It's the best explanation that I've seen of this style of HIIT training. Dr. G puts it together in this book. Go check it out, 1 minute workout. But essentially what we're doing with this style of HIIT training is going all out. I'm talking, you're running from a tiger, 30 seconds, all out, maximum intensity. If you truthfully execute something for 30 seconds, that is at 100% maximum intensity. Now we're talking about some sort of cardiovascular thing. It could be a muscular movement too as well. Whatever it is, it takes your cardiovascular system to complete exhaustion that you can't do anything more beyond 30 seconds. That should require about 3 to 4 minutes of complete rest. If you were able to recover within 2 minutes and ready to go at 100% intensity again, then you really weren't at maximum intensity to begin with. This is intense if you actually do it. So you think sprinting, running sprints should be a goal for everybody when they're improving their health and maximizing their health. But man, a lot of you watching this, how many years has it been since you've been able to actually sprint without an injury happening, right? Probably years, maybe even decades. I'd love for you to make that a goal. We're not saying that you need to start sprinting now, but sprinting would be an example of an explosive exercise that many people can't even do for 30 seconds. But you need to pick some sort of exercise that you can safely reach that brings you to as close to 100% maximal failure within 30 seconds, and it requires a very long rest period. That would be 1 rep. A singular workout would be anywhere between 3 to 5 cycles of that. And if you did that 2 to 3 times a week, even after your weight training days, would be phenomenal. The benefits of this style of HIIT training are astronomical. Higher growth hormone releases than you'll get from weight training. Much more massive cardiovascular improvements than you'll get from weight training. And some pretty awesome benefits towards muscle mass, but it still won't give you the maximum hypertrophy benefits that you would get, the metabolic improvements from the style of weight training that we talked about earlier. So I want you to still focus on hypertrophy training at least 3 times a week, but this could be the secondary thing that you could add and that you should add, because it takes a much less time than the long steady state cardio, and the benefits to your hormones in so many different categories are very, very powerful. The key to this though is making sure you pick a method that makes the most amount of sense for you. So your average person who's very out of shape, who's just getting started, who's new to all this, you don't have to overthink this. Swimming, for example, could be a nice way to challenge yourself, because you can stop at any point. Maybe you can only swim for 8 seconds, whatever it is. All out, working up to 30, long rest period. Jumping lightly could be a way to get your body to maximal failure. If you are so out of shape that doing this and just body weight squats takes you to complete cardiovascular failure, then so be it. You want to find an exercise that takes you to failure in the 30-second rep range, that's safe, that doesn't hurt your joints. That's the key to maximize on this. So for some people, that could be the body weight squats, that could be squatting in a chair, all the way up to something more intense like sprinting. Another good thing is one of those stationary bikes if you have access to a gym. The stationary bike is pretty awesome, much lighter and much easier on your joints. So play around with it. Let me know in the comments what form works best for you, that you're able to execute safely without any pain in your joints, and you're able to push yourself to maximum failure. Finally, steady state aerobic cardio. We talked about efficiency, we talked about effectiveness, and this is the last on the list simply because it takes the most amount of time and it has the least benefit relative to the other 2 forms. And that's tough because yes, there are amazing benefits with cardio. You see it and you hear people talking about getting thousands of steps per day and how beneficial that is. Walking after your meal can lower blood glucose levels. I'm not invalidating any of that. Steady state cardio, if you're doing nothing, can be life-changing. But we're talking about efficiency. We're talking about effectiveness. And time-wise, return on investment, as you progress, as you advance, steady state cardio becomes less important. Now you can up the intensity, certainly, of the steady state cardio. For example, you can go on elliptical, you can go on a Stairmaster, you can go for a jog, and you will absolutely burn a tremendous amount of calories. 45 minutes jogging, for example, for most people is gonna burn 500 to 600 calories. But we talked about that. It's consistently burning calories through form of exercise, for example, is usually met by the body's reaction to crank down the metabolism. So long term, your body's gonna halt that. And I gotta be honest too, even if your body didn't plateau, do you really think you were gonna commit to a 45-minute cardio session 4 times a week for the rest of your life? Like, let's be real. It ain't gonna happen. And don't bullshit me and don't bullshit yourself. Like, we gotta be real here. And so time management wise, most of you guys don't even have the time for that. And that time would be significantly more well spent if you were doing weight training and possibly throwing in some high intensity interval training. So again, I'm not poo-pooing the cardiovascular. There are many cardiovascular benefits, but when I look at the overall picture, and I get an individual who's obese, near obese, pre-diabetic, and we strip off that weight. We get 100 pounds, we get the body closer to where it needs to be, and then we start shifting the focus to muscle building. That's where we can also shift the cardio emphasis and say, look, let's decrease the fasting, let's really dial in, increase our protein intake. Usually I go from a weight loss to a weight maintenance, and that's where we can get some body composition shift, where we're simultaneously building muscle mass and we're losing fat at the same time. If we have now, because we got so much more control over our weight now, we got more attention units. This means we probably have more time. We can start adding and playing around with some more cardio too as well. So stages, guys. Stages, progressions, doing the best you can this month and seeing what can I execute on and improve the following month. This will be your best friend if you take this sort of mentality, not just during your lasting weight loss journey, but for the rest of your life. If you guys enjoyed this video, check this one out. We take a deep dive going into GLP-1 medications and our lasting weight loss approach, how we actually do that to accomplish microdosing and intermittent use protocols. We'll see you guys later.